Hey everyone, welcome back to the Incredible India podcast series. I'm Sam, and joining me today is Taylor. And we're jumping into a deep dive today that takes us way back, like 1,500 years, right into the heart of intellectual history.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating topic. Our mission today, well, it's to uncover the secrets of the ancient city of Nalanda. It's nestled there on the plains of Bihar. When people think about where higher education started, their minds usually jump straight to Europe, right?
Exactly.
Wait.
And that's why Nalanda is such a revelation, isn't it?
Right.
We're talking about the world's first, well, truly great residential university, and it was flourishing way back in 5th century India.
hmm
I mean, just to put that in perspective, it was this thriving academic hub 1,000 years before places like Oxford or Cambridge even got going.
A whole millennium. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. For centuries, it was basically the global epicenter of learning. What we want to do is show you how this massive intellectual powerhouse became a sort of global capital of thought. And crucially, what its silent ruins, those sculpted bricks, tell us today about, well, their resilience, but also the tragic vulnerability of human knowledge.
Okay, let's start with that scale then, because I think that's key to understanding Nalanda's significance.
Yeah.
When we say university, we're not talking about some small local seminary. This was fundamentally a transcontinental academy, a truly cosmopolitan hub of scholarship, way before we talked about globalization.
Absolutely. And what really jumps out from the sources is just the undeniable global pull this place had. This wasn't an accident either. This intellectual flowering, it happened during the peak of the Gupta Empire. Historians often call that India's golden age, right?
Right, a period of stability.
Exactly. That cultural stability, that foundation, allowed for this unprecedented academic pursuit.
And that stability, it drew seekers from, well, pretty much across the known world at the time. The record shows students, revered monks, making these incredibly long, arduous journeys, years sometimes,
Yeah, really difficult journeys.
from places as far-flung as China, Korea, Japan, Sri Lanka, Tibet, even Persia,
Yeah.
all determined to live and learn within Nalanda's walls.
And it wasn't just because it was, geographically convenient for some. They came specifically for Nalanda's unique intellectual tradition. This was the place where the great schools of thought, particularly different Mahayana Buddhist traditions, they met and kind of synthesized with the really rigorous analytical framework of Brahminical logic, especially the Nyaya school.
Oh, okay.
So it was the place to master both philosophy and logic at the highest level, together.
And we have that famous anecdote, the one that really grounds this history, from the Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang. He spent years studying there, didn't he? In the 7th century, he called Nalanda a...
City of learning where discussions rang like thunder.
Yeah, that quote just paints such a picture. It really does. You can almost hear it. Intense intellectual activity.
And we know what he was doing there, too. He wasn't just, sitting in lectures. He spent years meticulously copying thousands of texts, a huge scholarly effort, really. It's thanks to him we know so much about the era.
Wow.
But the atmosphere itself, sources suggest it was intense, maybe even brutal in a good way. Philosophy wasn't passive. It was a living, breathing practice.
Try to imagine thousands of students all actively engaged in these intense public debates, probably out under banyan trees, just hammering out complex metaphysics, logic, real-time intellectual sparring.
That sounds incredibly demanding. Continuous, high-stakes debate. Did the sources hint if that maybe led to some kind of intellectual rigidity? Or perhaps excluded certain views?
Well, it certainly created an environment where, only the sharpest minds could really thrive. Getting in was notoriously difficult. One source actually mentions only about 2 out of every 10 applicants made it through.
Yeah.
They had to pass this tough oral exam given by the Devara Pandits, sort of the gatekeepers of knowledge.
Gatekeepers, huh? Yeah. They wanted to make sure every student admitted would add to the intellectual rigor, not, water it down.
Okay, so if you got in, you joined this community of thousands. What were they learning beyond, say, high-level metaphysics and logic?
Oh, the scope was really broad. It shows a truly advanced kind of holistic approach to learning. Yes, studying the Tripitaka and Buddhist logic was central, absolutely. But students were also expected to master a whole range of secular subjects.
Like what?
Things like medicine, advanced astronomy, mathematics, especially the ideas behind the decimal system and zero, which we're developing there, and complex grammar. They were essentially training scholars who could synthesize knowledge across all these different scientific and philosophical fields.
So the student body was impressive, the curriculum was wide-ranging, but then there's the sheer volume of knowledge they house. The libraries,
Yeah.
the scale here is just almost unbelievable.
It really is, and it highlights the immense value they placed on written knowledge. The estimates suggest at its peak something like 9 million manuscripts filled its halls.
9 million.
9 million. And we even know the names of these huge library buildings, like Ratnasagra, that means Ocean of Jewels, and the enormous Ratnadati, the Sea of Gems.
Sea of Gems. That name alone tells you how priceless it was considered. Can you give us a sense of the scale of those buildings?
Well, Ratnadati was famously described as being 9 stories high. Imagine that. A 9-story building packed with texts, mostly sacred scriptures, commentaries, philosophical works. And to manage 9 million works, they must have employed hundreds of scribes, copyists, librarians. It was an intellectual infrastructure unlike anything else in the world at that time.
Which, of course, brings us to the tragedy and why Nalanda stands as such a devastating symbol of loss for really global civilization. When invaders set those libraries on fire in the 12th century, the source material gives this horrifying detail.
Yeah, it's grim. The accounts say the fire reportedly burned for months.
Months. Oh, my God.
Just continuously burning, that single event, that long fire, it's become this powerful, painful metaphor for the destruction of knowledge in the medieval world. Calculating the full intellectual cost, it's just impossible.
And that scale of destruction, it represents such a massive, specific setback for global human progress, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you think about the advancements, Nalanda was known for math, medicine, astronomy. How did losing all that specifically hold back the transmission of knowledge?
Well, think about mathematical ideas. Things like zero-based calculation, complex algebra. These were highly refined in India then. Destroying so many texts detailing these methods, it definitely delayed their systematic spread and acceptance, particularly in the West. It wasn't just losing books, it was losing the living culture of advanced scientific teaching that went with them. It punched a hole in history, really.
That feeling of loss is just immense. But thankfully, when you walk the grounds today, the ruins that remain offer this powerful, tangible counterpoint to all that destruction. Let's shift to that experience.
Right. Visiting Nalanda today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, by the way. Covers about 12 hectares of this beautiful sculpted red brick, about 90 kilometers from Bodh Gaya. It honestly feels a bit like stepping inside an archaeological diagram. It's very orderly.
What should people look for? Because it might be easy to just see broken walls, but you need to look closer, right?
Yeah.
See what the foundations tell us about daily life for potentially 10,000 residents and scholars.
Exactly. The layout itself gives you tangible proof of just how advanced their architecture and engineering were. You needed that to run such a huge sangha, the residential complex. You can clearly see the neat rows of monastic cells designed for individual monks, stone staircases still there, meditation halls.
And it wasn't just about looks, it was functional, built for purpose.
Precisely. If you look closely at the foundations, you can see these sophisticated, centuries-old drainage systems, ventilation shafts too. Think about it, a massive residential complex in Bihar's climate, managing waste, keeping air circulating for thousands of people. That was a huge feat of environmental engineering back in the 5th century. They built it to last and to function well.
If you do visit, the landmark that really draws your eye is Temple number 3, the big central stupa. Its layered terraces are incredible. You get these sweeping views, a real sense of the site's organizational grandeur.
Definitely. And to really connect with the physical past, the Nalanda Archaeological Museum nearby is absolutely essential. It holds that tangible proof. We mentioned proof of their artistic skill, their technology. Exquisite stucco images, beautiful bronze votive stupas, fragments of ancient inscriptions that somehow survived the fire. It makes the knowledge feel concrete again.
And the surrounding area adds so much context too, doesn't it? You're right near Rajgir, where the Buddha himself is said to have walked. You can visit the Rajgir hot springs, Vinavana, places where those ancient scholars probably meditated, finding that inner calm to balance out all the intense academic work.
That historical context is so important, and it leads us right into the final and I think most hopeful part of Nalanda's story, because the spirit of this place, that intellectual ambition, it's not just confined to the ruins, it actually lives on.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks to a really bold, modern effort. Just a few kilometers away from the ancient site, there's the modern Nalanda University.
Yeah, this contemporary university, it's a profound statement of continuity, I think. And it's supported not just by the Indian government, but by a whole group of nations across Asia, which shows you the enduring importance of Nalanda's legacy, its ideal of, transnational learning.
And the goal of this new campus, it isn't just teaching subjects. It's a deliberate, bold attempt to revive that ancient spirit, that kind of ecumenical learning for the 21st century is welcoming students from all over the world again, resurrecting that 1,500-year-old idea that knowledge should serve humanity universally.
And even its physical form pays homage. The architecture of the new campus, it's very minimalist, uses cutting-edge, eco-friendly construction. It's intentionally reflecting that ancient balance of wisdom and simplicity that defined its ancestor. They're trying to recreate that environment of intellectual focus, but also sustainability.
So when we look at the whole picture, the ruins, the revival, what does this entire journey tell us about human knowledge, human ambition?
Well, Nalanda is really a journey through the highs and lows of human civilization, isn't it? It shows us that building a true intellectual culture takes deep investment and it needs protection, but fundamentally it also shows that ideas outlive empires. You see the destruction, the fire, the neglect, but then you see this determined resurrection of a great ideal. It proves that knowledge, once it's formed, somehow finds a way back into the world.
Yeah. When you walk through those ancient courtyards, maybe at sunset, stand beside a cell where some scholar centuries ago dedicated his life to logic or astronomy, that sense of resilience, of continuity is just palpable.
It really is. And if you listen closely to the silence among the ruins, you almost hear the question that still vibrates there. A question that's just as relevant now as it was in the 5th century. Can knowledge ultimately make us better human beings?
That's a powerful thought to end on. And if experiencing that kind of history, that question firsthand sounds appealing. Well, if you decide to travel to Nalanda or elsewhere in India, we have a recommendation.
We do. 5 Senses Tours organizes tours across India. They focus on really immersive cultural experiences.
You can email them at contact@5senselstours.com. Just remember, that's the numeral 5 in contact at 5senselstours.com.
Or you can WhatsApp them. The number is +919 845 677 446.